there is a slight dent, a slight ding in the copper piping for the heatsink here. That very easily could be why the heatsink is not operating as well. What is up, everybody? It's the Don with the Don Tech here with another repair video. Today we have an HP Pavilion, more specifically the gaming laptop model 16-A0035NR. This is a laptop I've had lying around my room for a long time, but that's not really important. What is important and that we are here to fix this laptop. You might be wondering, self, what's wrong with this laptop? Well, I've got a couple of parts here to kind of show what could be wrong with said laptop. Are you able to figure it out based on the clues in front of you? Why am I sounding like Dora the Explorer? I need more coffee or less coffee? I don't know. What we've got here is a brand new heatsink assembly, along with two brand new fans. This computer was having an issue where it was reporting some fan errors, and on top of that, the temperatures were getting a little high. So I've been since gifted said laptop, and I figured let's go ahead and see if we can make it better. On top of that, I also have a brand new 980 Samsung solid-state drive, 1 terabyte. It's already got Windows 10 loaded on it from another build. I'm just going to slap that boy in here, get some updates, and then we should be good to go. I've got the power cord to be able to test it. I've got the screw holder here if there's additional screws, because guess what? I'm missing all of the outside screws. I did find a bag of screws that might have some in there. This is just like a plethora of different screws from laptops. So maybe that will get us what we need to get. So in relation to disassembling the laptop, first thing you need to do with any laptop, any repair, anything like that, make sure you're statically discharged. Don't wear socks on carpet. Make sure you touch a metal object. You can wear an anti-static wrist wrap if you need to. I don't go that route, but if you got one, great. For demonstration purposes, I can't show the next part here, which would be using a Phillips head screwdriver to remove several of the screws. Looks like we'd have 4 on the top and then another 4 on the bottom. These would be different sizes in both thickness and in length, it looks like, because these would be more so maybe hinge stability mounts, possibly, and then these are just case screws that hold it all in together. Once you have all those screws out, keep them aside, make sure you mark them and know where they're at so you don't end up with something like this. You're ready to open the laptop. So these laptops and a lot of HPs, a lot of commonalities in laptops now is they just require a little bit of pressure to push them open, or a pry tool of sorts. So this laptop has 0 value to me. So I'm going to go ahead and just see right there in that corner, immediately I'm able to just do a little bit of pressure and that corner pops up. We can probably get on the right side as well. Got it. And then just like that, we're able to run our fingers across and do some of the separation. That came off beautifully and easily. You might have to use a pry tool. It might not be that easy for you. I don't really know. Doesn't really matter. Just make sure you don't break it. I've done this enough where my break ratio is extremely low. So now, back on this laptop, what we've got in here is the 2 fans that are right here that we're going to replace. They should be the same fans, I believe. And then we have the heatsink kit itself. It's going to go right across here. So first I'm going to open those fans, see what we need to deal with. And I guess we're only going to have 4 screws for the heatsink to keep track of, because these 4 are bolted into the actual assembly piece. And then we're going to have some fan screws, looks like maybe 3. So 5 total. 3 plus 3 is 5 in this case. And then we also have the SSD down here that I'm going to replace with this upgraded SSD. This system obviously has had the RAM upgraded before. Looks like this is probably 2 16 gig sticks from Team Group T-Force RAM. Not my first choice, but whatever. I don't know if I plan on using this laptop, gifting this laptop, selling this laptop. I have no idea. As you can also tell, there's a bay over here for a 2.5-inch SATA-based drive. I like to see that HP does include that along with this little adapter here, so that way you can actively use it for an additional drive or your primary boot drive if you want to go that route. A lot of laptops that have space for an SSD and a standard SATA-based drive, a lot of times they forego this cable and make you buy it separately. So that's cool to see with this. One of the pluses for HP. Am I doing a repair video or a review video? I have no idea. So I don't know where my knife is, and I don't feel like getting my knife, so we're just going to go ahead and use the flathead, or not flathead, the Phillips head screwdriver here to just get, you know what, we're not even going to do that. we're just gonna open the box. We're not even gonna try to do anything like that. We're just gonna bring out each individual fan. After this video, we don't need these boxes anymore, and I can finally be free of this clutter. My intention going into this was to make it a one-shot take. We'll see how that goes. So as you can see here, we have the two identical fans. They will be installed in the upside down position, and it looks like there's going to be a little bit of overlap in the middle here for that one screw. That's how 3 + 3 = 5. For starters, we're just going to go ahead and do these screws over here. We have 3, 4, 2, 1. It really doesn't matter which order you take these things off in. When you install them, doing a cross pattern can sometimes be beneficial due to pressure, but removing it, it doesn't really matter. I'm probably going to need to grab some isopropyl alcohol to get this stuff cleaned up so I can do proper repasting. I should have thought about that before I started to sit down and do the video. So I believe that's all that would be necessary for the heatsink, and this should just pop right back up. We do have a cable here for the Wi-Fi antennas that look like they are taped, oh so smartly, taped here. So carefully remove this from the heatsink on the cabling side because you don't want to damage the cable. It doesn't really matter about the heatsink unless you plan on reinstalling the same heatsink. So these cables connect down here. They are held in with a little piece of plastic that is keeping the wires into place, which is nice so they don't pop out. They probably could have done that a little bit better, but whatever. And this old heatsink can come right off. So we still have the thermal pads in place, and then some glorious, gracious amounts of thermal paste that was applied. And then we have just a little bit of dust in here. It's really not all that bad of a unit. This could have been a manufacturer defect with that little hit right there, because the casing looked just fine. We'll have to get some isopropyl alcohol and some paper towels to clean off the existing thermal paste so we can apply newer thermal paste. But before we do that, we're just going to go ahead and remove the 5 screws that are holding in the fan. And it does look like you can replace either one of these in any order. I like it when that's the case. I really dislike it when you have to fully remove a heatsink and 15 different screws just to access a fan, because in their infinite wisdom they decided to put a plastic piece of shroud of the fan underneath the heatsink. So these screws are going to be a little bit different in size. So we're just going to do the scientific method of some go on top, some go on the bottom, and just not shake that, okay? I would not recommend that. Use a magnetic pad. I am in kind of a rush. So the right fan here is synced up with the DC jack. So it just has that little cable management prong there. Looks like these are a top removal, not a side removal for the fans. So hold the board down while you remove the cabling. And this side here looks like we've got a speaker that connects with another piece of tape, because why not? Carefully remove the tape, not to damage the cable or remove the cable. And then you have access to this fan, which is also top down. Put pressure on the board gently so you can pull up the wires and not cause any more damage. These fans, since they are universal, doesn't matter left or right, anything like that. Oh, look at that dust bunny there. Set those as well to the side. I do have some dust here, which is gross. I guess we'll put that in the middle of our little screw bucket there. So we're pretty much now ready to, I guess, install the fans, because we don't need to worry about anything here yet. So let's go ahead and take one of the fans. The orientation for this looks like it had the pins for the fan were going to be facing you if you're doing the installation the same exact way I am. So we just lay that in there, gently push the cabling down, being mindful not to damage the board. Reroute the DC jack cable through this little loop here, and then we're going to put the fan on the 2 mounting posts. We have a post up there and then a post down here on the board. It might move a little bit, that's okay. We're going to go ahead and take the second fan, do the exact same thing, except this one's going to overlap on top most likely. Pins facing you, go into the board, push in. There's not really an audible click, so you just kind of do it based on feel. Resecure that tape there, and then they are in. had a little bit of the DC jack wire here was going on top of the fan in the spot where it's supposed to go underneath the fan. So now that is all said and done. I'm going to go ahead and take the screws from our bucket that were at the top of the bucket and just put them back in. Remember, 3 plus 3 is 5 in this scenario. Should I live stream repairs? Would that be interesting? Asking for a friend. The setup could work pretty well. I'm right next to my editing computer. I could have the chat right next to me. Wouldn't be bad. Maybe I can have a top-down view and another view of my face. All right, so that is all done. Next step is going to be for the heatsink replacement. This heatsink already has the coolant, not the coolant, the thermal paste removed, and they even left some thermal paste on this little pad here. Thank you for that. This was used, or it was new on eBay, so you know what that means. Okay, so I don't have access to paper towels right now because I'm kind of tied up with where I'm at. So I got Charmin toilet paper. I do not usually recommend toilet paper because it can break and it can actually cause more residue to be left behind when you're cleaning up. But I mean, whatever you have access to, coffee filters, paper towels, toilet paper, generally none of these should be used. Then you can just clean up as necessary. As long as you are not creating any static electricity, you will be okay. But generally you want to use paper towels because they will not leave as much debris behind. And they'll also probably tolerate the isopropyl alcohol a little bit better without disintegrating. Okay, so that has been scrubbed. We're going to try to get this giant glob of thermal paste down there. As long as you're not using liquid metal, thermal paste is not conductive, so it is okay if it is on the board. So that is good enough of a cleanup job here. I need thermal paste. I don't have any thermal paste near me. All right, I had to go get some thermal paste. I got the XTM50 high performance thermal paste because this was the first one I could find. I've got a bucket full of different types of thermal pastes. So we're just going to go ahead and take the thermal paste and apply a generous line here, a generous X here. So down here on this bottom one, this is going to be the graphics chip. And then, no, sorry, reverse that. This one that I'm doing now is the graphics chip. The bottom one was the processor. And you know what? Now that I'm looking at this, I see that they didn't do the best job cleaning up the thermal paste. So I'm just going to dab another toilet paper piece and just clean that up. Be mindful if you are touching your new heatsink with this to not put pressure because you don't want to break the chambers, cause the gas to come out, yada, yada, yada. And I'm going to get the old one real quick just to verify here. So the old one is in my left hand, making sure that the thermal pads all match up. Looks like I'm missing a thermal pad here. I'm just going to borrow a thermal pad from my old, put it there, and it looks like everything else is all lined up and matching just the same. I don't like that there's thermal paste there, but it doesn't matter. This, fortunately, just goes straight on. We're just going to try to get the heatsink up here in the vents first, and then we're going to lay it down carefully over both the processor and the graphics card at the same time. Apply gentle pressure. And we're just going to go ahead and start on the CPU chip 4, 3, 2, and then 1. Was it cross apple sauce? I'll re-put this sticky piece right there for the Wi-Fi antennas. And there we have it. Fans are replaced, heatsink's been replaced. Now I'm just going to do the SSD real quick. So we have one screw for this SSD mount. This is a Western Digital 256 gig NVMe SSD. Right here, we've got the Samsung. And that's just going to go in. As you can tell with these NVMe SSDs, they're keyed, where you have a smaller amount of pins on one side, fewer amount on one side, larger amount on the other side. That corresponds with the keying on the actual slot for the board. That just goes in at a slight angle, pushes until it makes connection, and you'll know you're fully in and correct if it lines up with the screw hole here. This one's a little bit more cumbersome because you have to put this thermal pad, heat sink, I guess you could say, over it, but it wants to stick to things, so I might pull that out. That is on. So now that everything is all plugged in and done and set, next step is just going to be introducing some power. So on this one, we've got the DC jack right up here. Introduce just a little bit of power to it. We should have a light go on, and it's amber on that side. Hello, hello. And we should be able to get some power. Immediate on the HP boot screen, immediately go into the Windows operating system. I heard the fans spinning up, so those are working just fine. And the fans will usually only spin when they're necessary to spin. Do I have the ability to do Ethernet? I do, but I require the other thing, so. So booting into this window, your password has expired and must be changed. Always expected. I'm going to plug this into Ethernet to a USB adapter, so that way we have internet. And I guess in post, maybe I can turn this around. If you get a prompt like that says your password's expired and you don't have a password on it, make sure all 3 fields are blank, hit enter, boom, you're good to go. This does not have touchscreen, so we're just going to go no. This is pretty much a bona fide operating system that's all set. So we're just going to go Firefox. Not now. I am doing this upside down, even though through the power of editing, it looks like I'm not. We're going to do gosh, is this what plunkers feel like? I'm trying to find the keys. So we're going to do a hardware monitor and get the setup here. I hate all these ads on every single website when you just want to download something. Whoever edits this video, are we live? Yeah. Are we live? Yeah. See the battery here real quick. Battery's a minute to charge. It's at 12%. And we have hardware monitor. I hear the fans revving quite a bit now. And let's see what the temperatures say that they are at. So right here with the CPU core package, 70 degrees, 69, 70 degrees, 71 degrees max it looks like on here for the package. That's really, really nice. This thing was spiking up to, I think, the 90s just on idle. So obviously replacing the fans and the heatsink has given us much better temperature performance. And I don't know if the GPU is going to be installed. Where's the escape? At this time, I don't know, my Control-Alt-Escape is not working. And where is the delete key on this thing? There we go. Control-Alt-Delete gets you to this. Control-Alt-Escape can get you to that as well. Usually it brings up just the task manager, but it wasn't working. GPU. All it's noticing right now is this one for the ultra high definition. So let's go ahead and check some updates real quick. I'll do some updates. I'll be back with the GPU temps. The editing magic has now been resolved because the laptop is the way that it's supposed to be. I'm still waiting on the updates to finish on this one, so I wanted to just go ahead and say I'm kind of done. Temperatures feel just fine. The fans are running just fine, so I don't foresee there being any issues with this computer in general. It's just taking forever to install the NVIDIA-based graphics chip, and I just don't want to sit here and wait all that long. So we're going to consider this a fixed repair. The chip never really had an issue for the graphics anyway. It was just the CPU temperatures that were going really high. So if we go back to the hardware monitor, we'll see that I think at max it got to like 89 degrees or something like that Celsius. Right now in this one after a reboot, 68 degrees Celsius max. Running absolutely very, very nicely at this point. And this internal graphics chip is running 52 Celsius, but that's on the CPU die, so that would make sense. It's going to be about the same as the CPU. We just can't tell what the other one will be. So the next steps and what the finality will be of this video, which is not going to be on film, would be getting all the drivers installed, closing the laptop, putting this back plate back on, which just goes on exactly in the same way that it was taken off, just reverse, and then the 8 screws that need to go in place. and then you'd be good to go from there to use it, sell it, whatever you'd like to do. So thank you so much for watching this video. If there's any repairs you have a question about, leave them in the comments down below. I repair computers often and frequently. And like I said, if you want to see this being live streamed at some point, let me know as well. So again, my name has been The Don. This has been The Don Tech. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. And remember, The Don's got your back.